The War is Over, the Stonehouse Series. Chapter 31. Wow, Martha, Mary exclaimed. When you make adjustments, you make adjustments. Nothing stays the same. I guess you don't have to just look at your feet anymore. A pinkish shade of red rose up in Martha's cheeks. Esther spouted, Mama will be so happy. She has always loved you, Martha. Lazarus was squirming and changed the subject back to the mystery woman. Simon, your great-grandfather's sister, Anna? Oh, yes. Now that my question has been answered, I am willing to answer yours, understanding that what is said here among family stays here. There is much about this place and its history which even Esther and her mama do not even know. Esther's ears perked up. She brought the back of her right wrist up to her forehead and went into some melodramatic spiel about her adopted daddy keeping secrets from her. And when she slowed down enough to actually look at Simon with one eye open and one eye closed, she stopped her performance mid-sentence and said, You all must be hungry. I will bring dinner to the table, and waltzed off to the kitchen. Watching her leave, Simon said, Her antics kept me going when I felt like just giving up and dying. There is a treasure in that girl that I hope is forever polished. Martha spoke up. You have given her a life when most slave owners would have taken it away. Joseph and her mama know it is for sure, and it speaks volumes of the goodness of your heart. Simon, Lazarus voiced again, who is Anna? My great-great-grandfather's name was Phaneal. Anna was one of his daughters. She warned her brother, my great-grandfather, of things which were coming before he ever started building this house. Martha asked Simon, Isn't this house 100 years old this year? Well, parts of it are. It took them a few years to build it and to keep the secrets of it hidden. It's built on 3 chimneys, vertical shafts that lead to a matrix of underground tunnels. Preparing the table for dinner, Esther did not walk into the room. She floated. First she twirled at the door, glided across the floor, and placed fresh flowers at each end of the table. All the while she moved through the room. She kept her head turned and her eyes looking, so they could not make contact with Simon's eyes. Well, did the tunnels have something to do with you living when other babies were murdered? Lazarus asked. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem 33 years ago, his birth was announced to a group of shepherds by angels, a great big bunch of angels. Emma was among the shepherds who first went and saw our Messiah, Jesus, within just hours of his birth. Emil, questioned Mary. The same Emil I know? What happened to him? I will get there in a moment. Anna had been married at the age of 14 and lived with her husband for 7 years before he died. Then, for the rest of her life, she was either here at Stonehouse or at the temple in Jerusalem, watching for the arrival of our Messiah. She was at the temple watching and waiting on the day Mary and Joseph brought Jesus to the temple to be dedicated to the Lord, 40 days after his birth. She was 105 years old at the time. The next items to arrive were dinner plates held in the crook of Esther's left arm, and as she moved around the table, she did not turn, she spun, again somehow managing to give no chance of receiving a visual command from her master. Martha asked, Well, how did she know to be there? Did Emil tell her? No, I don't think so. There was a lot of time and distance between them. My father and mother were convinced that Anna was a prophetess, and so was her brother, my great-grandfather. Out of all the babies she saw brought to the temple for years and years, when she saw Jesus, she knew he was the one that she had been watching and waiting for. Martha identified. Spirit Helper told her. Yes, he did, responded Simon, looking into Martha's eyes. I'm so glad you understand that, Martha. You are a treasure. Well, thank you, my husband-to-be, Martha chirped. Laz interrupted. Martha, will you keep him on track? I still don't know how Anna rescued Simon. Then came chilled water glasses, somehow being fastened to a silver serving tray through centrifugal force. One set before each guest. But as she swirled past Simon, his slightly moving foot caught her toe. She being set off balance, a flying silver tray with one last water glass separated above Simon's head. With what looked like a graceful bow, the tray was caught by Esther's hand as Simon, his left hand just above the floor, rescued the water glass and placed his still full glass upon the table. Without even one ruffled feather, Simon continued. She warned them, my parents, before I was born, of what was written by the prophet Jeremiah. She told them, I don't know how, when this wickedness of Satan's kingdom will spew forth, and the blood of babies will cover this land like a blanket, but you will know when it will be safe for your only son to see the light of day. So my parents hid me. I lived in the caves under this house until I was 4 years old. Mary asked, and what of Emil? His son and I were born the same year. His son? Asked Mary. I didn't think he had ever married, let alone had a son. Martha looked up with saddened eyes. Then Emil's son was one of the babies murdered by Herod the butcher. That's a wound that only the goodness of God can heal. What about his wife? I have never heard a word about her, Mary wondered. They are buried in the same tomb. She died, somehow, within a year of the boy, and he was almost 2 at the time. Mary thought out loud, he would have been old enough to have toddled around after newborn lambs. It must have cut the heart out of his mama to have her baby taken like that. Simon continued, yes, but Emil chose to live on. I have often seen a tremendous depth of kindness in the man, but at the same time, he has the strength and action of a broadsword. He is a man you want at your side. Returning with one last item and walking into the room was Esther, with beautifully folded cloth napkins, which she set before Simon and his guests. And Anna, what did she do after she saw Jesus? Lazarus asked. Did she stay at the temple? No, she had finished her mission. She moved into the caves below this house and had a primary part in raising me. Anna was my constant companion. She was with me until the day her body died, the same day my parents brought me out of the caves. The change was terribly intense, to go from darkness of the caves that I had always lived in to the sunshine brightness. As a protection for my eyes for many days, they wrapped strips of cheesecloth around my head to keep the brightness of the sun from damaging my eyes. Both Hannah and Esther served the meal, and Esther was, only when her mama couldn't see, presenting short pantomimes, all depicting segments of a Jewish wedding. Martha was having a hard time keeping a straight face and swallowing her food. At one segment, Mary almost broadcast her green beans across the table. Hannah knew her daughter was up to something, but was trying to ignore her. "Hannah," Simon finally said, "I have an announcement to make that will affect this entire household." Hannah drew in a deep breath, looked down, and responded by saying, "Master, please forgive my daughter. The exuberance of youth and her creative nature sometimes carries her away, and I will see to it that she is under control. Please don't deal harshly with her." "Oh, no, it's nothing like that, Hannah. What I have to tell you is good news. News Esther has just heard. I have asked, and Martha has said yes, to be my wife." "Oh, Master, I am so glad. She will be an excellent wife to you and give you many children." Martha blushed and looked at her feet, changed her mind and looked at Simon with no words, only mischievous eyes. "All in time, Hannah," Simon said as Hannah joyfully went back to her chores. "We will set a day not too far away, I hope. There will be many things to accomplish before that time, but there must also be another reason for this gathering you arranged, Lazarus." Simon continued, "I had my purpose for assembling with you, and it has seemed to be accomplished, but Lazarus, I still don't know why you wanted to talk to me. You only sent word we needed to meet around a meal. I had Esther and Hannah prepare one for us to celebrate, what I hoped would be good news." "Was there something else?" "The message the runner brought was very vague." "What did the runner tell you?" "He said, 'A message for Simon at Stonehouse from Lazarus. Simon, we need to meet around a meal.' That was it, word for word." "Lazarus, are those the words you sent?" Martha asked. No, they weren't," answered Lazarus, scratching his head. "Benjamin was out of town, so I sent Thomas. The message was, 'Simon, we need to meet about a meal.' That's an entirely different message, although I do have to say this was an excellent dinner, the best that I have had in a long time. Thank you, Simon, and I send my compliments to the cooks." As a side note, Esther's dinner theater idea could catch on. I greatly enjoyed the performance. At those words, Esther gave an exaggerated bow. "You may send flowers to this address." "Well, I didn't question it," Simon said. "It looked like a perfect setting for what I wanted to ask, and so I just started planning." Martha's face went slightly white. "You planned the horse bit for me? Why?" "My life seldom has clean clothes of white robes. I needed to know if I was still appealing to you covered with dirt and dripping with sweat." Martha's face went whiter still, but Mary answered, "You knocked her right out of the saddle, Simon. Your real life will be very interesting." Martha bristled. "And if I hadn't been attracted to you all dusty and dripping, what then?" "That, my beautiful bride-to-be, is a question I thankfully will never be presented with." Laz interrupted again. "Can we get back to the message and the meeting place?" "Do we have to?" questioned Esther. "I'm writing this down in my diary as the most fun day ever." "Oh, yes, of course. Something about a meal," Simon answered. Lazarus stated, 6 days before Passover, Jesus will be in town, and he asked if we will prepare a meal for him and 2 or 3 dozen guests. We volunteered your house as the place. Our house is too small, but we, of course, would help with the meal and preparation. We were hoping that you would say yes." Lazarus, Jesus has given me life. I would give him my house if he asked me for it, of course, yes. A movement in the peripheral vision caught Simon's attention, and he jumped from his chair in time to catch Hannah as she slumped to the floor. "Mama!" called Esther as she landed at the stone floor by her mother's crumpled form. "Mama, what is the matter? Are you hurt?" Martha was there and checked her heartbeat and breathing. "I think she has just fainted." The things that this woman has been through, and the thought of Jesus coming to this house, caused her to faint. Go figure. After a moment or two, Hannah's eyes fluttered and opened. "Did I?" Hannah wondered. The room just sort of drifted away. "Are you okay, Hannah?" questioned Martha. "Yes, I believe so. This hasn't happened in a long time. Please forgive me. Let us help you to the cushioned chair in the shade." Lazarus and Simon gently brought her to the comfy chair to rest. In the quiet of the shaded corner, Martha asked, "This happened before? When, Hannah?" "Almost 20 years ago. Not to worry. I will be fine in a moment or two." Esther was wide-eyed, looking at her mother. "You take the evening off, Hannah," Simon said. "Esther will gladly finish your responsibilities of the day. Isn't that right, Esther?" The daughter was nodding her head up and down, but her mouth was not moving, a noticeably uncommon moment. Martha said, "Simon is. It might be good for Hannah to sit in on the discussion about dinner. We will be working together on its preparation and serving." "Do you think she is all right?" questioned Simon as he turned to look at Hannah. "Oh, I think that she is more than all right, Simon." "Well, then, yes, of course." "Very good," said Lazarus. "Now we can come up with the dinner choices." "My brother, how can you think of food after all of the goodness that we just ate?" asked Mary. "Someone has got to keep us on track here, or we won't get anything done. The dinner is only 5 days away." Choices were made, and Martha took notes on a parchment. A chore list was written out for each person. Simon said he would discuss with Joseph what slaves could be spared from work on the grapevines to help in the dinner preparation. All things were winding down, and Martha walked with Hannah to the kitchen for a look. When they were alone, Martha asked, "Hannah?" "Yes, Mistress Martha?" "First, I always have and always will value your friendship, and unless proper etiquette around company demands it, I want you to call me Martha and be the same friend to me you have always been, okay?" "Yes, Martha." She gave Martha a big hug. "I am so happy for you. Simon is a good man who has always loved you. For many years I wondered why he never told you, and now here you are. God is so good. What seemed so far away is now as close as the air we are breathing. This truly is a beautiful day. It appears you too will also make an announcement soon. Have you told Joseph yet?" Hannah was caught slightly off guard. "I haven't told anyone yet. I am a little afraid. I was only 15 when Esther was born. Do you think that Simon will be upset?" "Hannah, Joseph oversees all of Simon's grapevines and wine. He is Simon's most faithful servant. It was years ago when he saw your love for Joseph, and he gladly gave you to him. I am sure he expected babies would come."